Well, I believe we're about to get one heck of a disclosure on unidentified flying objects and UAPs. In fact, the government has just purchased the domain Aliens.gov, and I think it's in preparation for Donald Trump's announcement that he wants the Secretary of War and the other departments within the United States to start unclassifying all that classified information for the public. And here's the deal. As the government buys that domain, which is not yet live, but as they buy it, there are drones literally flying over the bases of our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and Marco Rubio over those military bases. And we're also finding out that some of our missiles have been deactivated or they were shut down while UFOs were flying overhead. I've got one heck of an interesting report to share with you guys. But as you know, I believe Aliens.gov was bought because of this announcement in February by Donald J. Trump. And he says, based off of interest, I'm directing the Secretary of War, who, by the way, is the one that the drones are now flying overhead, the military base he's staying at, and other relevant departments to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to aliens, ET, UAP, UFOs, and any and all other info connected to these highly complex, but extremely interesting and important matters. God bless America. That's the message from Donald J. Trump. And obviously, he made that back in February 19th. Fast forward to March 19th. Here we are. And they have now got their hands on aliens.gov. And here this is on NYP. White House registers aliens.gov domain name, sparking hope of Trump news on UFOs. The eyebrow-raising domain name aliens.gov has been added to the federal government's official website registry, amplifying speculation that Trump could be gearing to pull back the curtain on what United States intelligence agencies really know about whether we are alone in the universe. Though the website is not yet live, the government has reserved the domain name for an as yet unknown purpose. Registry records now show. And by the way, Polymarket is doing a thing on that. Check this out. The odds of aliens being confirmed this year are soaring. But here's the actual domain name. You could see U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency have quietly purchased it. You could see the actual receipt there. And also here's some more. Alien.gov was also purchased by the same Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. And you can see the names of all of them there at the bottom. So there you have it. What on earth is this all for, and what does it all mean? Now, before I dive into that, just a quick break from my sponsor. You ever see something that just speaks to you and you instantly know that it is going to turn some heads? Well, that is exactly what happened when I bought these Never Surrender Trump Gold sneakers. They're anything but subtle, and the truth of the matter is, they're not supposed to be. And you know what? I put these on and I wear them around. They are really comfortable, lightweight, and they are absolutely meant to be worn, not hidden. You want to make a statement? Well, these are the shoes that are going to do that. And the good news is right now for my audience, they are giving up to 30% discount while inventory lasts. And they are on limited supply, so you're going to want to check it out. All you have to do to check that out is go to www.themagaoffers.com/Lisa, or you can give them a call at 1-855-550-MAGA, and make sure to use my code Lisa for even more savings. With all of that, if you want more information, click that more button if you're on your cell phone, or click the link in the description box below. So let's dive into why they would get this domain name. We all know the answer to that. The only reason that the United States government would buy a domain name like that is for the intent to use it. In other words, I think Donald Trump's announcement is going to come to fruition sometime soon, and we're going to get some of that classified information on that website. Now, let me be really frank with you. I think some of that information that they're going to start dropping is already public. They always start with all of that. So I'm not going to be in shock and awe in the very beginning. I'll be shock and awe when they finally admit that there are actual ETs or other species on planet Earth that they've had contact with, or actual alien bodies or something to that effect. They have not yet confirmed that, but I'm going to be blunt again and reiterate, I think we're going to get more of the same that we already have. We have lots of information on Roswell. I think they're going to put all that stuff kind of on there. And by the way, FBI vault.gov has a lot of great information on there regarding UFOs and all kinds of interesting things. I've often dealt through a lot of that, but I think some of that information will probably go on Aliens.gov. Meanwhile, an Air Force officer has come out recently and said, hey, you know what? There was some kind of unidentified thing flying above with red lights, and it completely disabled their nuclear missiles. And this is all coming out around the same time. And this is a past event that came out recently, right? But Zero Hedge, former Air Force officer claims UFO disabled nuclear missiles. A former Air Force missile launch officer says unidentified flying objects once disabled several of their missiles at a base in Montana during the Cold War. And that's a nuclear missile, right? According to NYP. Robert Salas, now 85 years old, said the incident occurred in 1967 at Malmstrom Air Force Base, where he was on duty monitoring LGM-30 Minuteman I missiles. Speaking on the Danny Jones podcast, Salas recalled the guards above ground reported strange lights flying over the base one late night. According to Salas, the guards initially described fast-moving lights that stopped suddenly above the missile facility. Minutes later, one guard called back in panic, saying a craft emitting a reddish pulsing glow was hovering near the front gate. He also reported that one of the guards had been injured during the incident. The NY Post wrote that shortly after the call, warning alarms sounded inside the underground controlled center. Salas said the launch control panel showed one missile going offline, quickly followed by the rest. Within moments, all 10 of their missiles at the site became inoperable. That is terrifying. For something to fly overhead with flashing lights and then have all of our missiles become inoperable. If this is technology from another country, we definitely need to know about it. But either way, security teams were sent toward the missile silos, but Salas said they stopped after spotting the lights hovering above the launch areas and were too frightened to approach. That's also a terrifying thought in and of itself, because they're supposed to be protecting us, but yet they were too scared. An investigation later examined the shutdown but couldn't determine the cause. Salas said the missile systems were designed with heavy shielding to prevent interference, which obviously that did not work. He added that the Air Force investigators required him and the commanders to sign secrecy agreements afterwards, warning them not to discuss the event. He said he eventually decided to speak publicly years after learning about similar reports in books about unidentified aerial phenomenon. So obviously he has broke that agreement with them and is now out in the public. And he's 85 years old. I probably get why he's doing that, right? Meanwhile, drones were spotted overhead the military bases where Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio were staying. In fact, there's been a lot of action on these guys with threats and whatnot, so please keep them in your prayers. But Daily Mail, and it's drones detected above Washington, D.C. Army Base where Hegseth and Marco Rubio live. Drones have been detected above Army Base in D.C. where Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth live, according to a report in the Washington Post. U.S. officials have not determined where they came from, but they said multiple drones have appeared over Fort Leslie J. McNair on one night in the last 10 days. This triggered a meeting at the White House over how to respond and whether to increase security measures. The military is already operating on a heightened alert because of what's going on in Iran, right? The drones over Fort McNair, which sit on the banks of the Anacostia River, have some officials considering whether to relocate the two people familiar with the Post set. So I obviously think they need to be relocated, but so far they have not moved. Rubio and Hegseth had not moved. It has been known that they have lived on General's Row at the base since October. And the reason they moved there, by the way, is for safety and security because there have been threats to their lives. But that's where they're at. In fact, speaking of other threats to their life, the apparent drone threat in Washington comes after Tampa's MacDrill Air Force Base, home to the U.S. Central Command, had to go on lockdown twice this week. U.S. Central Command is leading military operations in Iran. The first lockdown at MacDill came on Monday when a suspicious package was sent to the visitor center, and the second was on Wednesday and involved a security incident that left the base under a shelter-in-place order for hours. So as you can see, our bases are under attack. There's a lot of stuff that is going on, especially in light of what's going on with Iran. So there's all of that. But either way, I thought it's interesting that you be aware what our government is doing and interested in. I think I'm really hoping for some kind of real disclosure, but fingers crossed. We all know what's going to come first, and that's the stuff we already know. But outside of that, I want to know more information than what they're telling us. And I definitely would love to get to the nitty gritty of what's going on. But with all of that, I love you guys. I want to encourage you, get to restrictedrepublic.com. Look, I'm going to be putting up an exclusive report there today. I want to encourage you guys to watch. I'm not going to be posting it anywhere else. And we've got lots of exclusive content that we post due to all the regulations and stuff that happen on these alternative channels here. So use the coupon code Lisa and the number 5. It's a great way to support what we do and join thousands of others over at Restricted Republic. You can see some of the content there that we have. Really interesting, but all those videos, or most of those videos you saw on the screen, are exclusive. So anyhow, with all of that, I love you all. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.